Well, last week we started with Scripture. Now I'm going to start with the same one from the 9th chapter of Isaiah. Verse 6. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, which is what we talked about last week. Mighty God, which is what I'm talking about today. Everlasting Father, which is next Sunday, and the fourth Sunday of Advent, Prince of Peace. It's a wonderful little passage of Scripture. It was nice talking about babies last week, didn't you think? Most of you seem to have that baby gene. You know what I mean? Oh, can I hold it? You know, I kind of go, oh. No, you hold it. I don't want to hold them. I don't want to change diapers. I just don't have that gene. It doesn't work for me. Anyway, if it were mine, I suppose, yeah. Mighty God, that's a nice title, interesting title. Mighty God, God of battles. That occurs 11 times in the Bible references. To see God as a warrior, it distresses some people. Yeah? And especially, I think, a lot of metaphysicians who think that we should think of God as peace, with peace being the primary element of deity or godness, don't you think? Peace. That peace that passes all understanding, or as Tom help me. No, I wouldn't quote him. Myrtle Fillmore, Mother of Unity.
Oh, Witherspoon.
Witherspoon, thank you. With a name like Witherspoon, how could I forget? My dad used to play golf with him occasionally. I think he let Tom win. Anyway, Tom wrote a book, and it was about the peace that passes all misunderstanding. It's a nice title. Isaiah describes God as the wonder child, as mighty God or God of battles. And we wonder, can that possibly be right? It seems kind of wrong to, there's a head or two shaking with it. Yeah, it seems wrong. But if we look at our own consciousnesses, a God that is present only in the calm, peaceful times, does that seem like an adequate resource for the days or the nights of challenge? Lo, I'm with you always. Jesus said that. God is omnipotent, all power, omniscient, all knowledge, and omnipresence at all places, and that includes all times, yes? So God is always present, not just in the peaceful times. When you have a challenge and when you're experiencing difficulties, or have you had some kind of battle conflict with another human being in your lifetime? At least one? I know you did. Anyway, does it help you to realize God's not there? No. Because the truth is, God is there in those times as well. The one who calls you to righteousness also confers on us its might. Now, by describing the child as God of battle, Isaiah is suggesting that God is innocent. Child? Don't you think of a child as innocent? The child is called Wonderful Counselor, and that was just fun last week. Mighty God, God of battle. What does that mean? God does not cause or will the battle. Remember, it's innocent of that. But God does cause or will the victory of the good when conflict occurs. Does that make sense to you? Doesn't cause the conflict, but then is on the side of victory of the good. Wants to see that and experience that good expressing. Our job is to be in the express business, we've been told in Unity over many decades. And that express business is the expression of God, whose nature is absolute good. That'll be on the test. Nature of God is absolute good. Yes. So it doesn't cause the conflict, but it's there to aid in your victory, bringing forth good out of the situation and out of your life. That's its purpose. Now battles seem to occur to expand. Battles occur to expand landlines, property lines, boundaries. They occur to reclaim boundaries. And we speak of God as light and love. Then any battle you have is a battle to extend or restore the boundaries of your consciousness. To grow, to return when you've fallen away, when you've stepped backwards in consciousness, away from your normal state of awareness of God and truth. There's a reality about these battles. Often we think they're about people. It's me against that person or that group, or you against your neighbor or somebody in your family. It's never about people. It's not persons or things that are overcome in the battleground of the soul. It is the concept, they are the concepts, the emotions that are unworthy in your consciousness. Does that make sense? Not the people, but the concepts you carry about the people, the concepts and the feelings that you have about the people. That's where the battle is. To overcome those, to move your boundaries back towards God and away from personality. That's where the God of battles, or mighty God, is there to aid you bringing forth victory over yourself, over your own consciousness. There's a concept that I was thinking about. Every child, as it grows, destroys. Let me speak more to that. The immature self, with each step of growth is swallowed up in victory by the maturing self. As it grows, parts of itself are gone, changed. In other words, as it grows greater, the lesser is swallowed up or destroyed, released. So that's a process of growth. The battle comes from resistance. Did you ever resist growth? What happened when you did? Oh, Lord. Sometimes in life I would tell you that the amount of resistance to change is proportionate to the pain received. In other words, the more resistance to change, the more pain I have experienced at times. That resistance. Sometimes it's not overt resistance. I'm not, I'm never going to do that. But it's just, have you had inertia? You know, inertia. That's where you're on the sofa and you tend to stay there. Inertia can be defined as things sitting on the sofa tend to remain on the sofa. Things at rest tend to remain at rest. Oh, I know I should do that. Or next week. Yeah. So it's resistance or it's inertia. Do you have any resistance to things in your life? Well, that's where mighty God, the God of battles, can help you win that battle with yourself. To bring forth the good. That's what mighty God is all about. To bring forth the good in this challenge, in this sometimes painful aspect of spiritual growth. There's some scriptures, and I had fun digging up some scriptures that kind of speak to this mighty God aspect. And the first one is from Psalm 50. Begins right at the beginning. 1, 2, 3. The mighty one, God the Lord, the mighty one. Mighty God. Mighty one, God the Lord, speaks and summons the earth from the rising of the sun to its setting. What do you think it's speaking to the earth about? Come up. Come up. Raise in awareness. It's God calling the earth, and that means mankind, all things pertaining to the earth, calling it into the light. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God shines forth. God as endless light, as the perfection of light. You know, light is a solvent. You understand that, right? It dissolves darkness. Absolutely. There's no such thing as darkness overcoming light. Light overcomes darkness because darkness is absence. Nothing but the absence or the frustration of light. Our God comes. He does not keep silence. Before him is a devouring fire. Round about him is mighty tempest. I'll take that God working for me. Now, it uses the idea of devouring fire. Where did their light come from in this time period? Fire. Oil lamps, fire, torches, an awful lot of oil lamps. So light, fire, they were pretty much the same. Light devours the darkness. Fire devours anything unlike itself. It devours all kinds of things, and it's purifying. And that's what the light is. A mighty tempest, meaning there's lots of activity where the presence of God is. there's activity for growth and for movement forward, movement through, instead of just would you like to be there all the time? No. A mighty tempest, because God is God of action. The second one is from Isaiah chapter 10. I think I used green. Yeah, Isaiah 9:10. This is several verses. I did 16 and 17. Therefore the Lord of hosts, will send wasting sickness among his stout warriors. That's kind of, yeah. And who is he talking about? He's not talking about God's warriors. He's talking about the king of Assyria. Because the people had not been living in righteousness, following God's principles. The Assyrians came down on them. And of course, they attributed everything to God, right? So if they were attacked by the Assyrians, it's because God caused it. And it was because of their unrighteousness. It says he will send wasting sickness. It talks about the fat ones will become lean, wasting. What is it? It's sapping their energy. Haven't you had situations, challenges, where your energy seems to just being sucked right out of you because of the challenge itself? That's what's going on here. And under his glory, that's not God's glory, but it's the glory of the Assyrian king. A burning will be kindled, like the burning of fire, cleansing. God is there to bring about the good. The light of Israel will become a fire, and his Holy One a flame. That's the light. The light. Dispelling the darkness. And it will burn and devour his thorns and briars in one day. I heard the word briar a lot when I was a kid, but it didn't refer to plants. My father used it a lot. The thorns and briars here are the king of Assyria's thorns and briars. He's creating things that wound, things that hurt. And the light of God, the truth of God, the intelligence of God is there to consume it, to relieve it. Verse 20, in that day, the remnant of Israel and the survivors of the house of Judah will no more lean upon him that smote them. They'll no more be subservient to the one challenging them. When you've had difficulties with people or situations in your life, sometimes don't you feel like you're under their control? You're oppressed by them? That's the equivalent of leaning upon him that smote them, but will lean upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. A remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. It's all about staying focused on that power, that presence. It's another way of saying Emily Cady's expression that I love so much. Say it out loud.
There's only God. All else is a lie.
Yes. Don't you hear how this is saying that? That's the power. Not the other thing out there. Don't give it any power, because the mighty God doesn't cause the conflict, but is there with you to bring forth good from the conflict and out of the conflict and bring you out of the conflict. There's only God. Sometimes I think that may be one of the most important statements we can remind ourselves in times of pain and challenge and difficulty. The next one, I'm using a purple ribbon for that. I love my ribbons. Let's see, and this is from Jeremiah chapter 32, and it begins with verse 17. Ah, Lord God, it is thou who hast made the heaven and the earth by thy great power and by thy outstretched arm. God made it all. It comes forth out of God. So, no matter how things appear, God is there and good is there. And it is for us to remember that and look for it. Nothing is too hard for thee. Well, it's about time somebody acknowledged that, right? Haven't you ever had that illness that God couldn't cure? Or that challenge that God couldn't help with? That thing that was, as Charles Fillmore put it in, was it Talks on Truth? Something that was too wicked to ask God about. Have you had that experience in your life? I can't ask God about that. Charles said you can ask God for anything, even a drink of whiskey. They edited that out later by a later generation. Nothing's too hard for thee. And who showest steadfast love to thousands, but dost require the guilt of fathers to their children after them. That's a reminder, and that's not up there. Is there? Yeah, to thousands. Okay, I cut that other phrase out. Who showed steadfast love to thousands, O great and mighty God, whose name is the Lord of hosts. Once again, it's a reminder. There's only God. And God with us. We call his name Emmanuel. And you know what Emmanuel means. God with us. So it's not God out there somewhere distant and separate, but God right here, right where you are, mighty God, who is with you to bring forth good out of whatever situation you find yourself in. To be at your right hand, if you will, to guide you and direct you. The last one is one of my favorite books, Habakkuk. Do you read that often? You should. I remember one time, I guess it was about 1980, 81 or 2, I did a metaphysical interpretation of the complete book of Habakkuk. It was fascinating. Fascinating. Chapter 1, verse 12. Art thou not from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? God is eternal, right? And then he parallels that is, we shall not die. We are eternal. Because what is God is implanted within us. And, O Lord, thou hast ordained them as a judgment, and thou, O rock, hast established them for chastisement. Thou who art of pure eyes and to behold evil, and canst not look on wrong. You've heard that before, right? Of pure eyes and to behold evil. Thou canst not look on wrong. And thou, O rock, hast established them for chastisement. Thou who art of pure eyes and to behold evil. The author is once again doing that. It's whatever it is, whatever came, must be from God. And so he's saying it's for our growth, to point us back onto the path. Just imagine if you didn't have challenges in life and you just kept straying further and further from the path of light. Hopefully someday you'd look around and realize, my goodness, I'm in total darkness. It seems that there's no good in my life anymore. I've forgotten about God or the good. I've stepped away from that awareness of God or good. And in the meantime, God itself is of purer eyes than to behold anything that isn't. So the mighty God, the warrior, the Lord of battle, is seeking to express through you so that you find the good in every situation. Now think back on your life. You've had a few battles in your life. Yeah. Now think of one that came out well. You have had one that came out well, didn't you? Yeah. Now, think of one that came out well and you were able to see, that was for my good. I learned something from that. I grew from that. If when you were in grade school, or every arithmetic problem you just got right automatically, never got anything wrong, would you really understand how it works? How the arithmetic works? Or does it take both sides of the coin? When you see what doesn't work, like Edison did with his light bulb, he reaches the place where he sees how it works and what will work. He stated that he learned so much more from his mistakes than from his successes. And I have to say, in my life, I've seen that as well. The mistakes make me grow. The automatic successes, well, I don't know sometimes why that worked. I don't understand how it did, and I'm grateful, but I don't know every time why that worked. But when I make an error and I have to fix it and figure out why, you do this with your checking accounts, don't you? What's the charge now for making an error? $35. Yeah. I've told you the story about the time I had to run screaming at the bank because I could not catch up with the fees, because I'd go put money in and they had already charged another one because they just kept dropping. And I made the deposit, wrote the checks. I think I probably wrote the checks the same day I made the deposit. And and the checks went through before the deposit was. So I guess I was up to like $125 of fees. So every time I put money in, the fee would eat it up, and then I'd have another charge because there wasn't enough money there. Yeah. Amazing how much I learned in that process. Just so happened, the secretary to the head of the bank, the Maine, came to church here. And she went to her boss and she said, we need to fix this. I got my money back. See, it is who you know. Yeah. Wonderful counselor, but also mighty God. A guide, but also a protector and warrior that's at your side, not to cause the conflict or fight the conflict, but to assure that the good comes out of it. The battle or the hurt is not the will of God. Never the will of God. But the experience of the victory of love and light in your life is the will of God. You are the channel chosen from before the creation to express that victory in your own arena of life. And I put an affirmation on the back of the bulletin. If you'd like to turn to that. Mighty God, empower and guide me to the victory and the peace of the wonder child. Let us speak these words together. Mighty God, empower and guide me to the victory and the peace of the wonder child. Close your eyes for a moment. Think of these words. Mighty God, empower and guide me to the victory and the peace of the wonder child. That power is within you. That presence is with you. The wonder child, wonderful counselor, to guide you. Mighty God, God of battles, to bring you through the challenges of life, experiencing good and growth and your assurance of success.